Hey guys, it is the day after Christmas, so hope everyone had a great holiday wherever you are at. Here in sunny Fargo, North Dakota. No, it's not sunny. Look at this. Look at this. It's really cold out. Lots of snow. Man, if you're not from here, don't come here. It's terrible. It's terrible. Don't do it. So anyway, got an amplifier here on the bench that I'm pretty excited to have. If you were a fan of the original metal scene here in the upper Midwest, you've probably been to shows, you've probably seen and heard this amplifier. Had a while ago another musician who's a friend of mine who was working on some projects with the owner of this amp, who was talking to, and they were like, yeah, that thing, it sounds really tired. And I was like, well, get it in, let's get it serviced. And they didn't. So now it's broken. It stopped working. I have no idea what's wrong in it yet. All right, guys, here it is. This is a Peavey XXX. This amp has been, hundreds of shows, probably been thrown down some stairs. It's been toured. It's probably been recorded. It's probably never been serviced. Tons of stickers, writing's worn off, missing knobs. This thing's a local treasure. So I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to get the chassis out of the cabinet, and we'll do a visual look and see if there's anything obvious that's blown up or whatever. I'll be back in a minute. All right, here's the back of the amp. You can see, it's filthy. The vinyl's coming off. But look at this. Look inside here. We've got a couple of Mesa tubes, a couple of groove tubes. So mismatched power tubes. Eek. Let's see what we got when we really get into the guts of this thing, shall we? So we are inside the XXX, just doing our visual inspection, looking for anything that might be wrong. First thing you notice, this capacitor here has been replaced at some point. That one, but none of the others. Personally, I kind of consider that to be not a great repair, because you've already done the work to take this thing apart. You've taken the circuit board out. Why wouldn't you just recap the whole thing? Another thing that, and this is kind of a sticking point for me, anytime I've gotten to a point, anytime I see IC brand or Illinois capacitors, even if it's a brand new amp, I assume they're bad. I've seen so many premature failures of this brand of capacitor. It's unreal. Fender hot rods are probably the worst. I've seen brand new 2-3 week old Fender hot rods that fail. Bad capacitors. They're just junk. So we're gonna recap this whole thing. I can see back here by our effects send and return where somebody has sprayed the crap out of this thing with contact cleaner lubricant for these pots. They don't feel the best. None of the pots on this thing do. So we're gonna just really give them a nice, good, deep clean to all of the pots, all the switches. They should all clean up fine, but if they don't, we might end up replacing a couple of potentiometers. All of the diodes look okay. All of the resistors, I'm not seeing anything that looks bad. I did flip over the power tube board. Everything on here looks good. We will, of course, test our grid resistors here. These guys take a lot of abuse in the circuit, so we want to make sure they are a-okay. There is one capacitor on this board I'll replace. just because we're doing a full recap. Other than that, and of course our mismatched power tubes, the preamp tubes again, and it's not a big deal if your preamp tubes are mismatched. They're not a balanced thing like power tubes are. But there's a couple in there that look really old. There's a couple that look newer. We'll run those through the tester, see how they're doing. For right now, I'm going to just do a parts list, everything I need to recap this guy. One thing I noticed too, all of these other caps, I mean, they look okay. This one here, hopefully you can see, he is bulged up a little bit, and you press on the top of this one and like there's pressure. There's pressure inside this little sealed cap on here. It's where none of the others have anything like that going on. So this cap here is going to be bad. So that and our tubes could be, hopefully will be, like that one capacitor and our tubes could be our problem. I'll go ahead and, like I say, I'll get a parts list, and I got some other stuff I got to order for parts. And we'll catch up when I have all the bits and pieces for this guy, and we'll put it together. Hey guys, I'm back working on our Peavey XXX. I have a box of parts. So I'm going to go through, I'm going to replace all of these capacitors. I know for sure this one's going to be bad, like I said before, but I'm never going to replace just one. I'm just going to do all of them, because how close is the next one, right? I do have, so these first two, these are 330 UF. I have some 470 UF Mallory's I'm going to put in there. Just make that first stage in the power supply a little more robust. Otherwise, I've got some ChemCon, some Nichicon gold audio grade caps, all good stuff. Better quality parts than what first came in it. There are a few of these capacitors in here, like this guy's 2.2 UF. I'll replace that with a WEMA film cap rather than an electrolyte. I believe this guy here as well is going to become a film cap. I'm going to start though. I'll get our power tube board here. I think there's one cap on there. And I'll get this one on these back boards. So we'll get those done, and then we'll get the main board out. Okay, so I've got that first board out, and I'm just cleaning up the chassis a little bit. This thing is like super filthy. And I'm noticing, I'm getting over into here, and I'm noticing that, let's see if we can see it, this wire here, that guy's just barely hanging on in there. So that could be part of our problems. This is why like a good physical inspection as you work and as you do things is always important, to find things like that. I'm going through, I'm hitting all this with contact cleaner. I'm cleaning the pots, the jacks. These switches feel pretty grimy, just moving them back and forth. So we'll get this board out, we'll get it cleaned up, and then we'll do the output tube board. All right, I'm back. Couple days off working on this. I had to stop and order. So when I took out the main board and just started handling it, I just touched this resistor and it just crumbled apart. So, and I did not have that part on hand. Those are 50 ohm, 5 watt. So I ordered some. I like these little green from Vichy parts. So I'll put those in, and then I'll keep going. I'll get capacitors swapped on this board. And our next step is going to be cleaning all the pots and stuff in the front. Let's get to it. All right, guys, we've got that circuit board done. Everything's put back together. I did, like I said before, a couple of caps that were replaced with film caps. This guy right here. This one, they're just small values that I prefer to use a film cap for. Everything that was in here. So this cap that I assumed when I first looked in the amp, I assumed it was replacement because it's just a different level of component than the rest of what was in here. But all the solder joints, everything looked original. So there are a few like decent Nichicons in here, just random, but it's mostly this IC stuff. Ugh, gross. Gross. I did replace those 2 resistors. This one, like I said, just crumbled to dust when I touched it. There were a couple. That cap that was bulged up, wherever it went. That one did test bad. There was one of our small caps, I don't remember which one, also tested bad. Everything else was kind of within tolerance, within spec. But every cap you leave, that's just another service call later. So I don't mess around. I did replace the rectifier diodes. And you'll notice too, I spaced those up off the board a little bit. Same thing with our 2 resistors I replaced there. I went with bigger value, 470 UF versus 330 for our initial stage in the power supply. Tighten things up a little bit there. The rest of what we use, Nichicon audio grade gold. There's some Chemicons in here. This one is Vichy Sprague. So all the way through, just a better quality and level of better parts than it came with, for sure. The tube sockets were disgusting. I don't know how many beers this amp has had, but this thing ate up some contact cleaner, let me tell you that. So yeah, I'll put back together. I'm gonna go ahead, I'm gonna run all the tubes that were in it through the tester. We'll see how the tubes are, and we'll get it put back together and we'll set the bias. All right, so we ran all the tubes through the tester. The power tubes, they all tested good, but again, they were there were 2 different tubes in there. There was a set of groove tubes and a set of Mesa tubes, and it is actually okay to do that, but they were pretty far mismatched between the 2 sets. So we got some new JJs in here, 6L6GCs. Preamp tubes, I was only able to actually test 2 of them. Two of these preamp tubes. I put them in my tester and they just made the tester hum. So I wasn't actually able to test them all. The 2 I tested, one was bad and the other one was really weak. So also new JJ preamp tubes in here. For the bias on this, now I haven't tested this myself, so I don't know. There are bias test jacks on the back of this amp. Right there. And our bias adjust is right here. I've been told by a few sources now that these jacks, the reading you're going to get off those is really inaccurate. So I've got my trusty homemade bias probe. They're even to buy one. They're cheap. You should have one anyway if you're doing this kind of work. So kind of the recommended bias I've seen on these is kind of in the 36 to 38 milliamp range. Bias this one is right at 37. So I'm going to go ahead and get this put back together, and we'll test it out, see how it sounds.